Hey there, friends, and welcome to the very first episode of the Preride Show, sponsored by FSA. My name is Jim Miller. I'm your host, and excited to be here on the ground with the Pure Gravel crew as we are deeply embedded in the scene here in Emporia, Kansas, just a few days away from blowing wide open this 2021 gravel racing season. And what better race to start with than the one that quite possibly started them all, and perhaps one of the biggest on the calendar. Of course, I'm talking about Unbound. All the top pros are here. All the top brands are here. And over the course of the next couple days, we're going to be sitting down with as many of these tastemakers and opinion shapers as we can to get their ideas, perspectives, tell some stories, maybe even some lies. We're not sure. But we're going to have a lot of fun doing it and a whole bunch of shenanigans along the way, no doubt. Who better than to kick off our coverage here today than with one of the men who is responsible for even bringing this event about to be, LeLan Dains. LeLan, man, thanks for coming and joining us. We're so stoked to be here. The town's starting to fill up. The energy is high, brother. How you feeling? What's going on?
Jim, it's my pleasure. I am feeling amazing. What better way to talk about the kickoff and do the pre-ride show than going up and down Commercial Street, the famed finish line Commercial Street that all these riders will be coming down here this weekend. So
I don't think you could epitomize the heartland of America better than driving down the main street in Emporia, Kansas.
Absolutely.
So LeLan, I have a theory.
Okay.
I have a theory about how this event even got started with in the first place. Do you want to hear it?
I do.
Because
I know the truth.
Okay, well, we'll see how close I am. Like any good adventure, it started at the end of the first long ride, where you're all sitting down, maybe a couple of beers being exchanged, and you thought, let's have a race. Let's have a race here in Emporia. We'll race them across gravel roads for 100 miles. And you thought about it, had another couple of beers. No, 200 miles. And then somebody from the back of the room said, make it unsupported. Is that close at all?
You're close. So just a couple of tweaks to that story. Jim Cummins and Joel Dyke in 2005 went up and did Trans Iowa. For those that know Trans Iowa, and that was year one for Trans Iowa. It's a 350 mile, at that time, cross the state of Iowa. It then became a loop, but it was a point-to-point cross the state back then on gravel. They came back and said that was a lot of fun, but 350 miles was kind of stupid and long. We have amazing gravel roads in the Flint Hills, but let's make it only 200. So they weren't building up to 200, they were coming back to 200. And for a lot of reasons, that was a much more attainable distance. It was still this far off challenge, but it was a little bit more palatable for those that weren't extreme ultra endurance athletes. And so I think that gave it the right recipe to grow in the way that it has.
How many did you have the first year?
34 riders towed the line in 2006.
Okay.
And they started from the fringes of Emporia in a hotel parking lot, and only about 50% of those people returned. So about 16, 18 people made it back within the cutoff, and they finished to no fanfare in a hotel parking lot, dingy, probably poorly lit. And it was amazing, it was awesome. And it's grown ever since.
So it started to grow out. When did you know you really had something? What was that aha moment when you thought, okay, we're really on to something?
Yeah, so there were some pretty crucial changes that allowed it to grow in the early years. We knew that the parking lot wasn't going to be able to be home forever. One, we were kind of outgrowing it. We doubled year over year for the first 4 or 5 years. So when we got up into the few hundred participants, we were starting to outgrow that space. And we said, you know what, this is a lot of fun. Chris Dimone had the brilliant idea to say, let's move it downtown, get the community involved. And that community involvement, if I could single-handedly pinpoint one major catalyst, there's been many, but bringing it downtown was probably one of the key and crucial components and changes we made. That coupled with allowing for support crews, because in the early days, you had to have a support crew. They had to come to Emporia with you, and they had to sit in their hotel room until you called them because you couldn't continue the race. There was nothing for them to do. They were forbidden from being out on course. And that was great for the rider. They had a wonderful experience, but it was not fun for the family and friends that were coming along to support, as they just had to sit and wonder how you were doing out in the Flint Hills. So we said, you know what? We want them to be involved. We want them to be a part of the journey with their rider. We'll allow them to meet at designated checkpoints, their rider, and refill their bottles, refuel them, all that. We got hate mail that we were ruining gravel. Gravel was supposed to be fully unsupported and you don't charge any money and all these things. As it turns out, it was a really good move for us in our event.
The starting of your event preceded the development of a lot of the common technology and products we use today in the gravel world.
Yeah.
What were some of the setups like back in 2006?
Well, the most noticeable change, we'll start away from the bike itself because there's some significant changes there, but GPS devices were not common. In fact, we did not even give out GPS coordinates or links or anything like that. No GPX files, no TCX. You had 3 things that you could rely upon. And one of them not so much. We used to mark the course. We used to give you cue sheets, but you only got the leg in front of you. You got the next set of cue sheets when you got to the next checkpoint. So you didn't have the full route when you started the race back in the early days. It was a true adventure race. And you had a paper map. So it was paper cue sheets, paper map, and we marked the course. But we told people every year, don't rely on the course markings. We know we put them out, can't guarantee they stayed in place. Lo and behold, every year some prankster would want to pull the course markings, destroy them, move them, what have you. People would get lost. So when GPS devices became more common, more affordable, easier for people to get their hands on, we stopped marking the course. Gave them the GPS routes, the cue sheets, the paper maps. People stopped getting lost. But it was a pretty big change to not mark the course. And there was some grumbling. Anytime you change anything, someone's pretty upset about it. But obviously we've overcome those changes and are still overcoming changes. And I think it's still going forward in a great direction. It's an amazing event. So,
tell me about some of the crazy stories or personalities that have evolved over the course of the years. I can only imagine with an event that's this nutty, there's got to be something that emerged out there that stands out there, a time when you just went, wow, I did not see that coming.
Well, there's been tornadoes touch down near course.
That's
there's videos. You know, I was telling you beforehand, before we got started recording, there's kind of before modern era gravel and after, and we're in the modern era and then before. There was a lot of insane videos that people were taking from their cell phones that people that are getting into gravel today haven't seen, and they need to scour the interwebs for some of this content, because there are literally guys in a ditch with their bikes on top of them, recording themselves getting held on, laying in the ditch because a tornado is 15 miles away, blowing through, and the winds are 60 miles an hour. You couldn't stay upright on your bike.
And a bike, as it turns out, is not exactly good cover from a hailstorm.
Not great cover. Your helmet at least gives you something, but get this, the race wasn't called. The storm passed, 10, 15 minutes later, game on, get back on your bikes and start pedaling again. There was no delay, no pause, no anything. You just you seek shelter in a barn if you can find it, low point in a ditch, and you keep going. That's only occurred once. There's been some storms, some hard rains, things like that, but only one time has a tornado gotten really that close to the course. There's also some personalities that don't get as much credit today. I love that we have the professional athletes that we have today. We have, the LTDs and the Ted Kings who came over and really started this new wave of top tier pros coming over. We want those folks. This is for them as much as it's for the everyday man and women. But there's, the OGs like Tim Eck. Tim Eck was a salsa rider who was doing DK in the early days. He's the one who originally came up with the Race the Sun concept that everyone loves today. He basically dreamed that up on a day. He wasn't having the day he was hoping. He wanted to win the thing. He was capable, but it didn't go his way. And so somewhere out there in the midst of flat tires and turned stomachs and everything, he said, I just want to beat the sun. I just want to get in and finish this thing before the sun goes down. And when he relayed that story to us, Race the Sun was born. The Yuri Oswalds. Yuri's still pretty much a household name because he's an amazing character, but he's won the race one time, and much to Dan Hughes' chagrin, 4-time winner of the race. Yuri is loved because of the year he won was the infamous year of the mud, 2015, where it was just a slog fest through miles of mud. And Dan and Yuri love to have their back and forth. But there's just some amazing personalities that have really made this thing grow. They're still involved in the race and the event today. And I love holding on to those memories as much as I love making the new memories with folks that are coming today for their first time, whether they're just trying to make the cutoff, beat the sun, or win the thing. Doesn't matter.
I think what stands out as making this event so unique is the city of Emporia itself. Here we are, pretty much smack dab in the middle of the country, and it's a very small city by any standard, but they seem to really embrace and open up to this event. Speak about that and then kind of the impact that it has on the community here.
Well, I wish I could point to what the secret sauce is. We have world caliber water. Our tap water has been #1 in the world before. Some years ago, when we were doing the competitions, we were always top 3, top 5 for our drinking water. So maybe it's something special in the tap. So as you're filling your bottles this weekend, definitely go straight from the tap. No harm, you're going to love it. But anyways, I think it's just Midwest personalities. We're a small town. Everyone kind of has to get along and work together. And so there's already a mentality of let's pull up our bootstraps and make this thing happen. But there are some communities that aren't as open and inviting to visitors. They live in small rural places because they want to get away from all the hubbub. And we're very fortunate that Emporians embrace this kind of thing, want to see it happen, and we're absolutely have been and continue to be instrumental in helping us grow this thing. The number of volunteers, organizations, businesses, individuals, you name it, everyone has pitched in some capacity to help enhance the experience, just give a friendly smile and howdy, treating these athletes like rock stars. I don't have to tell you, cycling's a bit of a niche sport in North America, and it's not always well received when you're out there riding on the roads. That's not the case here. They will literally flag you down, hoot and holler, honk their horn at you. They're stoked to see you here. They know instantly you're an out-of-towner, and they welcome you as such, and they love it. So
that's great.
Thank you, Emporians. We love you.
Thank you, Emporians. In addition to being an owner, you've held many roles and responsibilities with the race, but you talked about one of your favorite that I find unique, that short of being a finisher, that one of your favorite was being a Sag driver.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, a lot of reasons. Like you said, I have been a participant. I finished the 200 mile way back in 2008. Yeah, we're in 2021 now, so it's been a while. That was the last time I got to pedal the thing. I'm coming full circle, and maybe I'll come back around to getting to ride again now. But yeah, after I finished it, my immediate response was, I had a few flat tires. I could probably go quicker, but no, I'm satisfied. I'm one and done. I knew back then I probably wouldn't. I was in no hurry to do a 200-mile distance again. There was no gravel grail back then, 5-time 1,000-mile finisher club. So I was pretty satisfied to be done, and I turned my attention to helping others in their journey and being their support crew. Around 2008 was probably the first year SAG was allowed, because that was only year 3. And we had SAG that year, so that was probably the first year. And I knew how instrumental and how important those people were for me to finish the event. I wanted to give that back to others, be there for them. And to be honest, I didn't want to suffer that much again. And I wanted to be some small part in their story and their success from a distance. Obviously the focus was on them, but it's so rewarding to be there, give them all the things they need. But beyond food and drink, the most important thing we can give them as support is the motivation and support to continue going. Nearly everybody wants to quit. When they get to that checkpoint, it's comfortable, they get to stop, you're there. And my #1 job was to get them back on their bike and get them down the road. And I took great satisfaction in that. So I encourage anyone that if you've been involved in the race or if you've not, try your hand at being SAG support for somebody. It's a really unique take on it. You get to be out there near to the course and in the checkpoint towns. You get to see those other little communities. We talk a lot about Emporia, but Emporia is not alone. The Almas and the Council Groves, which we'll see this year, the Madisons and Eureka's to the south, a lot of amazing communities that have pulled together for those checkpoint towns, because those are communities of 500. And we're bringing thousands of cars to a town where they don't even have that many people. So it's a big undertaking for them, and it's the same in that area, that same mentality of, let's do this.
So in addition to bringing this event to this town, you own the bike shop here, but you also have another very important role with the city of Emporia. What's that all about, and how's that going?
Just mid-April, I switched gears, left the event officially, and became the director of Visit Emporia, our tourism office. And there were a lot of reasons for that. I just in a nutshell, I felt like I'd achieved what I set out to achieve with Unbound Gravel. I felt that it was in really good hands. I don't think I could have walked away if I wasn't satisfied with who was taking the baton forward. So I was very happy and at ease with that. Lifetime and the whole crew there is going to do an amazing job going forward. But I felt like this would allow me to continue to serve my community, but also be involved with the race from yet again a new angle. And so it allows me to refresh, start creating again and building, which is what we did in the first place to bring this up. And I think there's so much more potential for Emporia, which is the gravel grinding capital of the world. So much more for the state of Kansas, which has nothing but gravel roads all across the state, beautiful spots to ride. And to be honest with you, we're only just getting started.
I love the sound of that. Let's talk about the race itself.
Okay.
You mentioned the world-class level participants that we've got. Anybody you got your eye on? Any favorites you're thinking about?
Well, I was super stoked to see LTD have such a great ride down there in Texas. He was I don't think he was, playing any cards. He really wasn't sure how he would stack up against the American gravel scene. I think he genuinely surprised himself a bit, had a good showing. He knew he had been training, obviously. He wasn't ignorant to that fact.
19 years on the world tour will do that
19 years on the world tour. So he had a good showing. Maybe showed his cards too soon. Now he'd be a marked man, but you can't ignore Colin Strickland, who won for good reason in 2019 and did so handily and in good fashion with a 105-mile solo breakaway.
Yep.
It's insane. You cannot ignore Quinn Simmons, who is young, hungry, and one heck of a competitor.
And from what we heard, flying right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And he's had some good European race days under his belt. So those I would pick as my probably top three right there, LTD, Colin, and Quinn. But the beautiful thing about this race is the Flint Hills don't care how strong you are. It takes a lot more than strong legs to win this race. You do have to have some lady luck. You have to know how to handle your bike. You have to know how to change your own flats, fix your own derailleurs. I mean, there's so much that could go wrong, so much that can change the game for you. And so,
how about on the women's side?
The women's side, we haven't talked much about the XL, but I will throw in there, good friend of mine, Amanda Panda and Lael Wilcox will give us one heck of a show the 350. Very stoked. That's probably my number one race to watch is women's XL. But on the 200-mile side, there's some new faces that I don't know what to expect from. Tiffany Cromwell in particular. I'm really keeping an eye on her. I think she's going to perform well, and again, as long as she can keep the tires inflated and the rubber side down, she ought to do well. I don't think you can ever discount Allison Tetrick, who's podiumed basically every time she's come to this race. Who else is in there? Some of the names escape me, and I just looked at the rankings just the other day.
Amity's in there.
Amity, of course, defending champion. She rode steady, and again, I think she's a prime example of she wasn't out front of the race until the very end. Mm-hmm. And that's just a testament to not getting down, not getting disappointed in where you find yourself, and knowing that at any moment, even in the closing miles, the entire race can change dramatically. I mean, someone can have a catastrophic failure 5 miles from the finish line. You never know. So you got to keep pushing, and that's what she did. So I think her grit and determination will definitely bode well, and experience now, because again, some of these top level competitors are brand new. 50% across the board are first timers. Pro, amateur, weekend warrior, what have you. So,
well, and the fact that you guys sell out immediately every time through the lottery system speaks a lot about the event and its attractiveness to riders of all caliber.
Yeah.
But man, you've got a lot to be proud of here. You guys have built something super special. This town, like I said, has really just opened up to us, and it's only Wednesday of the week. We got a lot more to come here, but man, just can't wait to get after it, and really want to thank you for your time and all you've done to grow and promote the sport. A lot more to come out of you, I know, and we appreciate you sitting down with us.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Right on. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Preride Show, sponsored by FSA. Make sure on YouTube to subscribe and also hit that little bell so you'll get notifications of all the future episodes that we drop, many of which are coming right after this.